welcome. Great smile. Thank you so much. And ladies, right here when you can. Lovely. Thank you. Great smile. Last shot right here, ladies. Right here.
I mean, the most pressure of anything is playing a real-life person. And we felt it deeply, particularly that they're both incredibly admirable women, very inspiring women.
And I think they also felt the responsibility of us representing the New York Times as an institution.
Yeah.
And so we had that sort of in our minds as well.
Yeah.
I think more than anything, we felt really honored to be part of telling this story, and we felt a burden of responsibility towards all of the women who so bravely came forward in 2017 and after that.
Yeah. For me, so much of the film is about female heroism, and I think there's not that many examples of that on screen, unless it's a sort of superhero film, which also has its place. But to see women doing, really performing acts of heroism on screen in their everyday lives and their jobs, and the way that they sort of are courageous enough to tell their stories, I think that's really inspiring.
We had such an incredible time on this. I think I've been fortunate enough, and Carey's been fortunate enough to have been directed by women before. I think it's the first time that I've ever been on a set where almost every department head was a woman. The head of our studio is a woman. Our lead producer was a woman, Maria, our DP. So it felt very much like a whole set missionized to tell this story.
Well, we've been friends for 14 years. We were on stage together on Broadway sharing a tiny dressing room 14 years ago. Zoe was a bridesmaid at my wedding. So I think the most difficult thing for us was trying to portray the part on screen where they weren't best friends yet, because we are so close. And so there was, the start of the film, there's a bit more of a distance between them, and that was the bit that we were like, how do we portray this sort of people who don't know each other yet, because we know each other in and out. So to get to work together was just a dream come true. That just almost never happens, so we were very lucky.
Jodi and Megan are heroes, American heroes. They reveal the truth in a way that is liberating for so many people, provides closure for so many people who have been harmed, and I would say provides an example of what's possible when people are really committed to finding out what the truth is. Zoe and Carey are magnificent, very, very talented young actresses. And I was just overjoyed to be a part of it. They taught me a lot.
The message of this film, I think, is hope and courage and strength. And as women have found the bravery to speak up and to tell their story, it has encouraged other women to speak up and tell their story, and there's incredible strength in numbers in doing that. And so I'm really proud to be a part of it. I'm really proud for people to see this and hopefully find some courage and strength in their own lives from this. Visual storytelling has been a medium that has changed what storytelling is. It's incredibly powerful because actors can bring amazing humanity to a role in a way that's different than words. Not that words don't, because this came from words. This came from a book that was written by two incredibly wonderful women. So it's just cool to be a part of it and to be one of the actors that gets to bring it to the screen. It was wonderful. I mean, it's my first movie, so to be a part of a movie of this scale with this many powerful women at the forefront, writing it, directing it, lending their voices to it. I spoke with one of the actors today who plays older Rowena, and the authenticity that both of us were able to bring to the role as actors while also honoring Rowena's story, the writer's words. It's an incredible collaboration of wonderful women, and I'm just so honored to be a part of it.
Always be talking about survivors. We should be investing in survivors and what's happening with them. And that's what this night is really about. It's about the people who took a risk and did not know what was on the other side of that risk, and they should be celebrated. We shouldn't be calling anybody else's name but the survivors. I hope that people realize how hard it is to tell a story like this. And at the center of this story was really not about the one singular name that we keep hearing over and over again. It was about the courage of these women. And I think that we'll get to time to sit down and really take that in over time, and not in just quick sound bites like we've been doing for the last 5 years. So this is great. We've been doing this work a long, long time, and not just me. There's just like tons of us who have been trying to get this issue to the forefront. I think we've probably jumped ahead 20 years in just 5 years, but we still have leaps and bounds to go. So I think we've done a lot, but this hashtag and this moment and this movement has made so much possible in the last 5 years. And I really want people to focus on the possibility and not all the other noise that's kind of drowning that out. It's a social justice issue. It's a public health crisis. It's not gossip. It's not fodder for us to talk about over, the water cooler. It's the real people's lives that are impacted. So just like we talk about gun violence and climate change and police brutality, we should be talking about sexual violence.
This night is such a celebration for me, and I hope for all other survivors who get to see this film. I was lucky enough to get to participate and be an actress and play this incredible journalist from the New York Times called Emily Steele, who helped bring down Bill O'Reilly. And my character gets to say some things in the film that I have said in real life, that I've wanted to say in real life, about some of the people who were complicit in what Harvey was able to do. So being a part of this was so healing and so encouraging, and I'm just thrilled that the world finally gets to see what I saw a year ago being on that set. I loved Jodi and Megan's book. I thought it was so compelling and gripping, and I was not surprised that it was being turned into a film, because it really is like a thriller. It's like All the President's Men, but for this story. And I think that I'm also a writer and a filmmaker in addition to being an actor, and I always say that I think filmmaking is so important because it can really break people's walls down and reach their hearts and minds in a way that maybe reading a news article can't, or hearing something from a friend can't. I think it will get under people's skin, and they'll see that these are individual survivors that were really impacted in their real lives, not just this faceless monolith, and I think it's going to be really impactful. Zoe Kazan was my scene partner in everything I got to do, and I've been a fan of hers for forever. And we met in the makeup chair, and she found me. She said, "I've been wanting to meet you. I'm so excited to work with you." And we really bonded, and she was such a generous scene partner, and it was really lovely. I immediately felt at ease. And Patty Clarkson and Andre Braugher, like these legends. And I got to make Andre Braugher laugh on set by talking about musical theater. It just felt like a fairy tale. And it's been a rough 5 years. I have dealt with some career retaliation. So to walk on that set and have Maria Schrader welcome me with open arms and tell me she was a fan of my acting and excited to have me in this film, it was just finally that moment of validation that I get to be where I was always supposed to go. And the fact that it happened with this film is such a healing moment, and it feels kind of like poetic justice.
It's a very surreal experience. It's something we never could have predicted. We're still trying to process it. But listen, we're so thrilled that the world is going to be seeing on the big screen so many of the incredibly brave sources that we encountered in this investigation. This film is like a real testament to the truth and the truth tellers. And, if this can inspire like other people to come forward and tell their truth, that would be thrilling for us.
A few weeks after the investigation, we wrote our book because we wanted to invite people on the journey. We wanted them to see journalism the way we see it, and we wanted them to understand that these women's deliberations were so complex. They took on so much risk, and yet a very small group of sources were able to have extraordinary impact. So, our job, when Megan and I are just sitting home at our desks or in the newsroom when we're not dressed up like this, our job is to help build people's confidence in telling the truth, and we would be thrilled if this film did that as well for people.
We were so grateful for the care that they took in both in observing us and bringing our characters to the screen. And this is the first time that some of our personal lives are going to be depicted, and that was, and on the one hand made us feel a little vulnerable, but we were just blown away by the kind of care and integrity they brought to they're playing us in the movie. Shortly before the story was published, we were working around the clock to just nail down the facts and make sure we had an airtight story that we could publish. And we actually shared a cab ride back to Brooklyn one night. It was just like we had to leave the newsroom. We were so exhausted. and we were like bleary-eyed, like running on sort of chocolate-covered almonds and takeout food, and we turned to each other and asked, like, is anybody going to care about this story? And so, to begin with, we were completely blown away to watch this help fuel this reckoning on sexual harassment and sexual assault. You know, the fact that there's now a movie about this, just feels like sort of the cherry on top. I mean, the sort of the reckoning that we've all experienced over the last 5 years was just more incredible than anything we could have ever imagined. So this just feels like an extra sort of special moment for that.
When I first received the audition for this film, it spoke to me immediately, and it was very secretive, but I knew, I just felt it in my heart immediately. The character is an ex-assistant of Harvey Weinstein's, who has been forced into silence for a very, very long time, for decades. And when the New York Times reporter shows up on her doorstep, she is shocked, immediately processes what she needs to do, is very, very tempted to reveal the truth, and ultimately succumbs to her fear and is silenced again. So it just spoke to me very deeply that they're telling this story, and there was a great feeling of unity on the film set. I felt it's rare that you feel such a connected feeling between everyone working on the film and the subject matter. So I was really thrilled to be a part of it.
Well, it felt personal, I think, for all of us. It's a story, which is not just any story. We all lived through what happened after they published the story. It really felt like, all of a sudden the windows went open and the doors went open and there's light in some kind of dark space, and it ended the silence, and people call it a cultural shift. And I mean, we all lived through that, and I was involved in so many discussions over the years, but to be able to tell the story, how this story evolved, is just, it's so meaningful. And of course, I was so interested, who are these people, and how did they get to write the story, and what difficulties did they encounter? And on one hand side, it's really like an exciting thriller, and on the one hand side, it's also very much about the brave women who came forward to share their stories. And these are probably the most emotional moments, and I hope they're also empowering and inspiring for others. As a director, your main task is to invite the right people in front of the camera, also behind the camera. And I'm just so grateful that they all accepted this invitation. I spent nights and nights and watched and, talked to them via Zoom because it was still COVID. I'm specifically proud of our cast, I hope that people will, be inspired to start communicating. The most touching thing for me was, this one line of one of the survivors who said, "I always thought I was the only one." And that kind of isolated place, I think we have to, the moment you share it, you can, communicate and change at least the world around you.
I love Maria. Every now and then you get to work with a director who you just know for the rest of your life, if they ever call, you don't have to read it, you just will be there if you possibly can. And Maria is one of those people.
I play an ex-Miramax executive who helps Jodi on her way to help finding clues and names of people so she could take down Harvey Weinstein. I came forward to Jodi in 2017, almost 5 years ago exactly. I was in the second article that was published, and so everything that was happening in this film was sort of happening in my life at that time. And so it was very personal to me.
and as it is to so many people. I feel like it's hard to believe, but we really were in a place where we couldn't talk about this before. 5 years ago, it wasn't happening. And it was so brave with the very first women that came forward. It seemed like when 3 came forward, it seemed like so many had come forward. You know, none of us knew that hundreds would come forward. But it's a real full circle moment for me because Jodi changed my life. I want them to see how hard these journalists worked to break the story, and that it's really imperative that we have investigative journalists, because without it we will never be able to break down these systems that keep these abusers, you know, from getting in trouble. And I think that also it's a time now where women are talking about it. We are able to at least have a conversation where before it was a secret. It was a secret, and now it's on the table. We have to keep talking about it, but the world has changed drastically, and this movie really shows that. It was cathartic. It was really cathartic. I feel so connected to every single person, every victim, and every survivor, and also all the people that put this movie together. I feel like did it with such care and reverence that it's a celebration. It's a celebratory film.
Very exciting and very monumental to be a part of, for sure. Bullies lose power once people know what they're doing, and I think that it's important to speak up, say what's going on so that people know about it and that there's action that can be taken against it.
I used to work as a journalist before I became an actor, and I was always interested in untold stories or underrepresented perspectives, and I feel like abuse is still something that is still really misunderstood, and to get into the complexity of it with such a phenomenal team, I hope will advance the conversation so that we can really tackle it and shine a light into the darkness that has been able to be in a systemic way with us for so long. I hope that people will be inspired to stand up and speak their truth, to really understand that how when we stand together we can achieve a lot of important change. And just the resilience of Jodi and Megan as reporters, how important journalism of that sort is, and that we really need it more than ever.
I always said that I've always wanted to be a part of a superhero film, and I first read this and I'm like, this is a superhero film right here. Like, these two women and the job that they did at the New York Times to kind of bring this story to light, a story that so many people had tried and had been stopped, and for them to power through, it's just a really remarkable, inspiring story, and it created a ripple effect that really changed the world. I really hope that the audience that sees this film sees how hard it was to get this done and why movements matter so much. You know, why it's so important for all of us to use our voice to make a difference in what we believe in. And I just think it's also a testament to the power of journalism, telling truths out there, and sort of what something like that could actually result in. And this movie is a real testament to that.
I'm so glad that people now are talking more confident about what's happening every day in the women's life, actually. I feel that seeing something in the screen, it's even more stronger as an impact. So I'm really happy that they did, and that they keep the voice of many still very powerful, because that's what we need. We need to keep talking about these things. Now in New York City is passed a law called Adult Survivors Act, and this law is going to allow victims outside statute of limitation to reopen their case. So it's going to be starting from next month in November, and I really hope that whoever now feels more safe and more courageous to start and get their justice, they should be pursuing it.
It's time to write.
This is all going to come up.
I was silenced. I want my voice back.